First things first, footwork. We want to be on the balls of our feet. A lot of people are guilty of riding on their arches or their heels, and I think reason being is it just kind of gives you guys quick, easy access to the controls, right? So this is where this bad habit forms. This is exactly what we don't want to be doing. Doing this, rotating out. When we ride on the arches or our heels, we are now flat-footed. We've eliminated all of the ankle travel that we have. So I'd say you could probably get anywhere between 2 to 4 inches of travel out of your ankle if we're doing it properly and if you're on the balls of your feet. We're riding flat-footed, we've eliminated every single bit of that. And if we're doing the old rotate out technique here with the toes, look at where my toes are now pointed. They're pointed out. I'll talk about more of that in a second, but just take a glance up at my knees when my toes rotate out and where my knees go. Makes it almost impossible to grip that bike with my knees. Keep in mind as I demonstrate this that 90%, maybe even more, of our grip strength should be coming from our waist down. So that means that our upper body is really just remaining squared up and working the controls. It is not death gripping. The legs is what's gripping this motorcycle. So everything we do should be trying to make it easier for your legs to grip the bike. Step number 1, which would be, do you spray SC1 on this thing?
What?
Do you spray SC1 on the side of it to like clean it or anything?
No, I sprayed W40 on the motor and shit.
Oh, nothing on the plastic?
I try not to.
Okay, because it was slippery. When I got on, it's better now that I've worked it in, but right away I went to take off and my butt slid like this and I was like, uh-oh, what are you spraying this thing? So be careful. If you guys are spraying SC1 or whatever to try to make your bikes look pretty, keep in mind that you want the top of your seat to have the ribs in it so it can catch your pants. You want the side of your bike to be grippy and not slippery so you can hang on to that thing with the legs. If we're slipping and sliding around, it's not good. So balls of your feet, you want to drop your heels. So your stationary, your reset riding position should be here with your heels dropped a little bit. Dropping the heels is how we want to get that suspension, not going up onto your tippy toes like you're doing a calf raise like this. This is going to drive your knees forward. So allow those heels to drop. You should feel the stretch in your calf and in your hamstring if we're doing this right. Next thing, and I'm already doing it a little bit right here, is toes pointed in. If you point the toes in, it will angle your kneecaps inward so we can drive the knees into the bike and we can grip with the knees. If our toes are pointed out, it drives the kneecaps out and we can't grip that bike. So get the toes in, drive these knees in. If you're taller, the knees will end up above the seat, that's totally fine. As long as we're in this position, balls of your feet, heels drop, toes pointed in, we can drive those knees inward to grip the bike. Moving up from there, knees should be behind the foot pegs when we stand. So when we look down, we should be able to see the top of our boot, should be able to see that entire foot peg, no problem. If we can't, knees are too far forward. In the telltale sign here is as soon as you go into the wrong position and the knees drive too far forward, you'll feel the weight go into your quads, your knees, and your shins. As soon as you drive the knees back to where they belong, you immediately feel that weight shift into your calf and your hamstring. So incorrect, correct. Incorrect, correct. And it's very obvious when people are in the wrong spot on the bike out there. Throughout the day, keep an eye on where people's knees are. A lot of people have that wrong. So knees back, next thing is butt. We want our butt off the back, but the big thing is hips. So hips unlocked is how we want to ride. What that means is our pelvis is kind of tilted this way, poking our butt out. I know it feels silly. And then our chest, right here, our sternum, is aimed up. So the idea here is that it disconnects, if we're doing this right, your lower body from your upper body. Notice how I can work the bike on the stand, and my chest and my chin aren't moving at all. That is the key. If we lock, so if we drive our pelvis forward, driving our knees forward, kind of giving us this hunchback look, this is connecting our lower body to our upper body. Wicked dangerous. You guys hit braking bumps, rollers, kicker on a jump face, even a sandy section where the bike wants to get loose underneath you. Being locked like this will not allow the bike to get loose underneath you. If we can unlock, you can let the bike do what it wants. If it needs to get kicked sideways, let it get kicked sideways. If it's getting squirrely in the sand, let it get squirrely in the sand. That's why the pros are able, it's humid, huh? That's why the pros are able to get away with so much. You see them get kicked on a jump or get sideways in Supercross whoops, whatever it is. 9 times out of 10, they can bring it back. It's only when their upper body starts to get out of shape and starts to twist away or whatever, then they have issues. As long as we can keep these hips unlocked with the butt poked out, and the head forward. Allow that bike to work under you all day long. Lower body keeps the weight back, upper body has to keep the weight forward. So this is where it's going to get tricky, especially for those of you that aren't flexible. Make sure that head stays forward, even while the knees are keeping the weight back. Upper body, we just want the elbows up, so we're remaining squared to the bike. And then head, when you stand, should never come behind the crossbar pad. When you jump, drive the head forward. When you hit rollers, when you go down a straightaway, when you accelerate, drive the head forward. When you brake, you're just simply going to lower. We're not leaning back, we're just lowering. Again, the common theme here and what you'll notice is that I'm always very neutral. There's not much leaning super far forward. There's not much leaning super far back. Like the position you'll see me in is very, very neutral. When I go to sit, same thing. This is my sitting position when I hit a turn, right here. Neutral, upper body upright, elbows pretty close to 90 degrees, we're here. If you start getting uncentered from that, especially when we go to sit, that's when you have your issues. If there's any secret to cornering, and we're going to talk a lot about cornering later, it is if we can maintain 90 degrees with both elbows, and it's not quite 90 degrees, but it's pretty darn close, we're in the sweet spot. As soon as we start losing that, either way, dipping into the turn, head falling inside, head falling outside, upper body twist, all of that is throwing the weight where it shouldn't be. If we can just be squared up, keep the head centered, this will create consistency, especially when you get to the sand. You won't feel the need to put your foot out in the corners anymore. You'll feel comfortable making the transition from standing to sitting. It really makes things quite easy. When you're at, if you have the bike just on the stand in the garage, a good thing to practice, and we're going to talk more about the sitting position later, but is your transition from sitting right here to standing up. Sit down, stand up. As silly and as simple as this seems, the majority of people don't have that figured out yet. And they get confused on, first of all, when to implement standing or sitting, and then how to quickly make the transition between the two. But once you learn it, man, it's so easy. It's so easy. And eliminating the foot out in the turns, and abusing of the clutch, and dragging the brakes in spots where you don't need it, simplifies riding so much to where it just makes it, okay, all right, we're standing, cool, all right, now we're sitting. Standing, sitting. And the common theme between the four guys that I always point out is that they almost look like a video game character, like somebody's pressing the button. Like you see Sexton come out of a corner, he's very robotic when he sits, right? Same thing with Jet and Hunter. And then when he goes to stand, it's as if somebody just pressed the button for him to stand, and then he's flung right into position. There's no wasted time taking the time to get up. There's no wasted time taking the time to get down. Very efficient and only in those two spots, never anywhere in between.